Okay, let's move on further on to astrology. You're an evolutionary astrologist. What is that? And can you explain a little bit to those who are new to astrology what astrology is?
Well, as we started to speak about that, astrology is a study of cycles. Just as we understand that the sun regulates the planets, the seasons on Earth, you have the position of the Earth and its rotation around the sun creates a change of season. And we understand that the moon plays a role in calendars and seasons as well, tidal waves. We as astrologers understand that it goes beyond the sun and the moon and that it involves all the planets of the solar system and beyond. And what astrology is basically a cosmic clock. And each planet represents a cycle. And this cycle is not just about nature, when it's good to plant or when there's going to be an earthquake, but it also regulates our fluids. It regulates our electricity. It regulates all the frequencies and the rhythm. So the Earth is part of a big clock. And the alignment of the planets, wherever they are in each moment, tells us what time it is now. Okay. What it is appropriate to do. What is the season we're in. So it's more than 4 seasons. There are many layers. So the study of astrology is a study of cycles. And it's about aligning our life on Earth with a cosmic clock. And understand that we are part of a bigger rhythm, of a bigger cycle. And so we look at the stars today and we see what constellation is this planet and what angle it is with another planet. Is it the beginning of a cycle? When the moon crosses the sun, it's a new moon. When the moon is opposing the sun, it's a full moon. And so you have that with all the planets. But what you can also do with astrology is not only look at what's going on now, but what happened when you were born. We do a photograph of where were the planets when you were born, at the exact time and the exact place. How was the sky? And then we understand what cycle you are in your evolution, in your personal evolution. Not just the Earth, not just all life on Earth, but your particular role and your particular rhythm, and how your personal story relates to the bigger story. So through the natal chart, through the natal astrology chart that we do when you were born, we can understand what you're here to do. What is your destiny?
Oh, really? Your life purpose.
Your life purpose.
Wow.
And that's not just, who you are as a person, but where your soul is coming from and what it is here to do. Because it has to do with what cycle are you in. And here the bells are ringing.
Yeah. Can you see back in past lives as well?
Yes.
In the chart?
The chart is symbols, because each planet represents a force. It represents an energy that is part of nature and the cosmos. So you can see through this symbolism the past, the present, and the future. The reason is, why do we see the future with astrology? is because we know ahead of time where the planets will be. It's a predictable cycle. So we know that tomorrow the sun will move, to this constellation and to that constellation. So we can predict where the cycles will be. But it's the same as I'm going to tell you that in June there's going to be more light because it's summer.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be a prophet to tell you that. I just need to understand cycles. And most people don't know astrology, so they think we are some kind of psychic.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's just there. You just need to learn to measure it, and you will know. Knowledge is accessible for everyone.
But how specific is it? Can it tell me that I'm going to be a football player or an athlete? That's my destiny.
It can be very specific, but we have to understand that there is free will.
Right.
Let's put it this way. The planet gives you an energy. It's just like I'm telling you, summer is coming. It's going to be hot. There's going to be a lot of light. Now, if you wear a sweater and you want to go skiing in the summer, you're going to be miserable. If you bring your bikini and you're going to the beach, you're going to be happy. So the same thing with astrology. I'm telling you, the planets tell me this. It's going to be warmer in your life, and there's going to be more light. What are you going to do about it? It's your choice. So this is why you can use your chart in very positive ways and in very destructive ways. You can have people that are born at the same time and the same place, like twins, and they are the only ones who have the same chart, astrology chart, because the pattern of the sky never repeat. However, if it only repeats if you're born exactly the same time, the same place, then you will have the same chart. So if twins are born by a cesarean and they're pulled the same time, they will have a similar or exact same chart. And yet you see that not all twins will have the same destiny. And this is where free will and consciousness makes a difference. Like I said, they will go through the same cycles, the same influences, but they may make different choices.
But does that mean that they have the same potential?
Yes.
Okay.
The same potential, the same orientation, very similar challenges. And sometimes it works in crazy ways, that they marry the same day or that they, but I have seen, especially with twins, that there is something very interesting, that they are always like yin and yang, especially when it's two. And usually there's one that is more extroverted and one that is more introverted. Usually if it's a boy or a girl, the boy is more introverted and the girl more extroverted. And so they take the same energy and they apply it that way.
Okay. Do you know anything about the moon and how it's affecting us? There are so many people talking about, the moon was so big yesterday and I was totally out. Is this I guess it's part of the whole thing.
It is. I mean, first of all, it's also part of nature. I think that when you see a big moon in front of you, you are impressed just by the beauty of it, and we are fascinated by the stars. And I will just bring another reflection before we get to the moon. But it's very particular in Norway. In all ancient tradition, they use the stars to navigate life. And in the past, they used astrology. They understood that there were patterns that were similar. Each time the moon is there, something happens. Each time there's an eclipse, there's a lot of drama. And so they could see that there are patterns, and that's why the astrologer was usually the king advisor. But later in the development, they started to do astrology for individual people, not just to see when it's time for war or when the king will die, but to understand your story. So it became for the people, not just for politics. And so what I'm saying is that all traditions have looked at the sky to understand that we are part of a bigger cycle, that there is a connection. And this shaman of Africa told one of the most important message for me in our times. And he said, in order to establish health and order, human, must make two connections. They must reconnect with the earth, and they must reconnect with the sky, with the stars. If you don't have these two connections with the earth and the stars, you won't find equilibrium. You won't find balance in your life. And this is why we have feet on the ground and head in the clouds. So, going back to Norway and the moons, as you know, for 3 months you have no nights. So there are no stars, only sun. And for 3 months in the winter you have no sun, but only moons and only other planets. So it's very unique to all the polar region, Alaska and Canada and Norway and Siberia. And the moon rules the night. The moon rules our emotions. It rules the Great Mother and the emotions, which means, what is the emotions? If, the moon is absorbing the light of the sun. And it's the same thing that we feel when we absorb experiences and they stay with us. If there was no moon influence in the astrology, you would go through life and it would just go through you. Nothing would be staying in you. So every memory, every marking, something marked you. You had a wonderful experience with a person. You remember it. It's part of you. It marked you. That's a moon experience. So if you didn't have a moon, you would simply be a robot. Things would go through you and it would not be integrated. But there's there are so many things to the moon. And what we have to understand is that the moon and the sun are like our filters. Okay. They are our personal lights. They are like our eyes. Okay. Eyes for the day and eyes for the night. And in astrology, the moon and the sun rule our eyes. So people who have difficulty in their chart with the moon and the sun may have eye problems. Oh. So that's just an example.
Wow, very interesting. You had a spiritual awakening because you are doing Kundalini yoga, and I read about this on your website, and I would love to hear about that if you want to share, because I'm very curious about. I've never had a spiritual awakening. I'm wondering, what is that and how does that feel and how did it happen?
Well, I think there are many dimensions to a spiritual awakening. It's a very big term. But let's understand what spirituality is. A spirituality is the cultivation of our relationship with life. with existence. Do we hate existence? Do we love life? That's spirituality. So is what is your relationship with God? What is your relationship with the creation? Do you feel good or do you feel bad? It's as simple as that. So people that are on a spiritual path, what does that mean? That they are becoming conscious of improving, working on their relationship with life. And the more they do, the more they harmonize their personal selves with existence. They are not separate anymore. And they say, it's my life, it's your life. No, it's life. And they become personally synchronized with a greater rhythm. But they do it in a conscious way rather than, just going through the motions. So spirituality begins with a very simple relationship. It's a simple relationship between you and the universe, you and existence. And I will say, you and the intelligence of existence. And indeed, I think that, some people, why do they say, you should meditate so that you will be more spiritual? Some people cannot meditate, but what happens in what happens in meditation ideally is that you tune out of this time and space, and you connect with a bigger pulse that is not just here in Oslo, April, astrology or television, or it becomes bigger. We are all part of the same source. And it doesn't matter if it's Norway or if it's New York or if it's South Africa. So the time and space becomes irrelevant. What happened to me, I was studying astrology at the time, and it was always very fascinating. I think astrology gave me a sense of order in life. Things finally made sense. Because I was going through the motions and I was confused, why do I do what I do? I could do things because people told me to do, because society told me to do, but I didn't understand them. And so astrology gave me a clear understanding of why things happen and where it's coming from, where we're going. And I was at the same time also learning sound engineering, and I was involved with music project. And with a friend, we went, I was living in Israel at the time, and we went to the United States, to New York, to develop our sound engineering music careers. But things didn't work out, and we had a big conflict, and I ended up very isolated. And I will say it was very cold. It was far away from anybody I knew. It was one of the most difficult time because this separation with my friend had a very strong existential trauma for me. It was like being thrown out of, like all my plans dissolved, and I was a little lost. And the only thing I started to do was yoga, but particularly Kundalini yoga. And also the only thing I did was astrology studies. So I went to libraries and I started to do readings to teach people in New York City, and because I had time on my hand until I figured out what I'm going to do, I did the yoga over and over again. I did like 3-4 times a week. And it's called Kundalini yoga. And after 2 months, from being completely lost, afraid, insecure, I became clear. I became very sharp, and everything became absolutely, I would say, clear. I knew that I was going to be an astrologer. I knew that this is going to be my path, and I knew exactly what to do to make it happen. There was no hesitation, and I felt tremendous power. I had absolutely no fear. And from a place of being very small and like almost going back to the womb from all these shakeups and emotional dramas, I started to change everything. The way I dress, the way I speak, my face changed. It was like, when you see in these movies, like Superman, he's a regular guy and then suddenly bang, 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 like his body transformed. It was a little bit like that, the feeling. But not only was I felt super powerful, I also started to understand new astrology knowledge. I started to channel a lot of new knowledge. And I felt like every second I had a new revelation. It was very intense. It was like my skull was cracking open and there was a channel of energy going through me.
Did this happen over time, or did it all of a sudden happen in a class
No, it built up. It built up gradually. And then I started to feel, because the Kundalini travels through your spine, I started to feel in my spine enormous heat and then blockages. And then it would work through the blockages and then go through it and release it. And I felt like that through, like I said, about 2-3 months. And it got to a point where I could not be in my body.
Oh.
My body was too small. All I wanted to do was fly, because this energy was so strong physically that I wanted out. And not out as in dying, out as in I don't know what to do with myself. I can't stand gravity anymore. So I understood that I had to relax, because otherwise it's going to lead to some kind of crisis. And I decreased this intensity, but it changed me forever. And the Kundalini is flowing constantly. You can feel it. And there are times where it's more active, there are times where it's less active. And one time I was, just to give you a brief explanation of how it can work, I went to a place in Brazil. There is a healer there called John of God. I don't know if you met him.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So I went there because my father suffers from an eye disease. And there's no cure for it. So I thought that maybe going there and having spiritual healing, John of God heals through spiritual forces, spiritual doctors, spirits. And so I thought that maybe, we have nothing to lose. We can go. And it's a place where there's a lot of powerful energy. And it's mostly meditation and prayer. And I went with him because he doesn't see. So I have to hold his hand and lead him and translate for him. So I was basically always by his side. And so all the treatment that he received, I received. Because I was in the field. And suddenly what happens there is that you can have invisible operations. So I was in this operation room and I felt very, very strong energy. And when we left, we were there for 10 minutes. That's the treatment. And I felt something hitting my head. Obviously there was nothing there, but I felt that. And then when we got out of the room, I suddenly could not move my legs. Oh. I could not carry my body. All my muscles became very, very weak. And I could barely hold my father and go back to my room because it's a 10-minute walk. But we made it to the room and then I had to lie down. And the moment I lie down, I could not move a muscle. I could not even breathe. That was too hard. And what happened is that the Kundalini was activated. Mm-hmm. And I started to feel intense heat through my spine, going up and down, like you're cleaning a pipe. And for 12 hours, I could not move. I could not speak. I could barely breathe. And it went on 3 times for about 10 to 12 hours each day. And what happens when you do that, and when these things happen, it is usually you feel that you become one with nature. Because what is happening through your spine is that all your energy center are aligned. So instead of having a blockage in your root chakra, in your heart chakra, they are working in harmony. And so you can be healthy, so you can have intuition, so you can have confidence. And the more you are one with nature, the more nature speaks through you. And you start to develop all kinds of capacities.
So how can one experience this? I mean, it sounds like a very good thing.
Well, it is. I think it's everybody's potential. Okay. You know, we all have Kundalini and we all have the chakras. It has to do with, I believe, first of all, your own dedication and your own connection with the earth and the sky. Because the chakra need the earth and they need the heavens. And if you are blocking one avenue, the energy doesn't flow. Now, what is the balance between the upper world and the lower world? The heart. You have 3 chakras down, 3 chakras up. The heart is the center. It's the integration point. This is why you have, the Star of David. It's the upper triangle from earth to the sky. And it's the lower triangle from the sky to the earth. And the balance, the heart is at the center. And this is a symbol of protection, but it's also a natural law. Because it is our duty as living beings to work this channel. When we are born, we receive life from the crown, and it goes down our spine to the root, and then through the sciatic nerve, through the soles of your feet. And your work is to bring this energy back up. So God, or the creation, brings the energy down into your body, and your work is to lift it up back so you can create circulation.
Wonderful. Before we...
When you do that, you work with the Kundalini. And then you can have, this feeling that you're strong. And what I will say, just to summarize, the Kundalini is everyone's birthright. And it's this physical energy that carries your spiritual essence. And the most basic thing it does is that it strengthens your immune system. So when your Kundalini is strong, you don't get sick. And you have clarity. So you develop what you're really meant to be and to do.
And to do that, you can go into the heart then.
Absolutely. Because it's not enough to do yoga. Some people do yoga all their lives and they feel good, but it's not necessarily going to activate. If it has to come with a heart-centeredness, and it has to come with a strong honor for the earth and strong honor for the heavens, and love for life.
Before we finish up here, I would love to speak about what's going to happen in 2013.
As you understand, there are many cycles, and each cycle represents a sign of time. For about 2.5 years, we have been under a very, very intense cycle between two very slow moving planets. Pluto and Uranus. They are very far from the sun, and so it takes them a long time to circle the sun. This means that when they come in alignment, it stays there for a few years. It doesn't move like the moon very quickly. And Uranus and Pluto create massive social changes. It's big revolutionary energy. So this is a time for the past 2 years and 2 more years where there is not a lot of security. And the past is erased. The past doesn't work anymore.
The old ways of doing things are not working anymore.
If you enter a company and you try to you will have problems. If you don't bring new solutions, it will go bankrupt.
Wow.
If your marriage doesn't work and you keep trying to do the same old, it won't work. It's a time of acceleration of consciousness. And this means that your vessel, your soul, is expanding. But it causes a lot of drama because people lose their sense of security. Along with that's going over 4 or 5 years. Along with that, particular to this year, there is going to be 2 important alignment this summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Mid-July, around the 16th and 17th of July, and then early August. There's a planet, Jupiter, it's moving into a new constellation, Cancer. And it will form immediate alignment with other planets, with Neptune and Saturn. But importantly, it will join these 2 that I was talking about, the 2 slow ones that are causing a lot of acceleration and changes. That Jupiter will also come with these 2 and form a triangle. And that means that the acceleration is intensified. So you will have massive destruction and new insights. This means that many people will feel very restless. What am I going to do with my life? It cannot be this way. It's too small. My body is too small. Or my marriage is limiting. You will feel limitation everywhere. And you will feel that need to change form. So it can bring conflict. It can bring a lot of political tension. And because Jupiter has to do also with belief systems, it can also lead to conflicts of beliefs. You know, the church and the people, and my religion and your religion, things like that. But on the
That will fall?
It comes to light in order to fall. But on a personal level, it is also new antennas.
We're opening up.
Massive development. It's very big. And Jupiter is the biggest planet. It's the biggest body. So there's something about the size also of things. Everything will be bigger, more meaningful, but also inflated. So it is an exciting time, but it is a ride. You know, it's a roller coaster.
Okay.
And one last thing, next year, April 2014, there's going to be the same Pluto, Uranus, the same Jupiter that are coming this summer, with an additional one, Mars.
Okay.
And so you will have 4 directions forming a cross in the sky. Very rare. We talk about the north, the south, the east and west. So here you're going to have the planet forming these 4 directions. And when that happens, first of all, it's like you're crucified on a cross, because you're pulled this way, you're pulled that way, you're pulled down and up. And if you don't have the heart to connect, you are torn. So again, it can create a lot of confusion, a lot of turmoil, but if the heart is there, it will create big spiral of evolution.
So stay in the heart. Thank you so much for all this generous information and inspirational things. This was very inspirational to me, and I hope it was for you as well. How can people get in touch with you if they want a horoscope or natal chart?
Yeah, I offer private consultation over the phone. So they can go to my website, www.mauricefernandez.com, and some astrology books. And next November, the end of November and early December 2013, we are going back to the White Lions with a colleague of mine called Daniel Giamario, who is a shamanic astrologer. And we are going to do more study of the night sky in Africa with the lions. Because what is particular with these lions is that they are star beings. They actually came from somewhere else. And so we will continue to explore this connection and these mysteries.
Wonderful. And people can come along, maybe?
Absolutely. It's open to group. We do a little bit of selection to see that people are really, in tune with this kind of work, so that they contribute. But it's open, absolutely. I will advertise about this.
Thank you so much, Maurice, and good luck with your wonderful work.
Thank you, and thank you for your wonderful work.
Thank you. And thank you for watching, guys, and take care. Much light from Oslo. Bye-bye.